All right, Coach Mac, it's all yours.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you for setting this up. Thank you, Dr. Marchman, for attending as well. Thank you, everyone, for showing up today. I should take a few minutes to introduce myself. Again, as Emily Eubanks said, my name is Marcus McDonald. I'm the school safety specialist and assistant principal of facilities here at PK Yonge. She called me Coach Mac or Coach McDonald. That's because I did do a lot of coaching in my career. I was originally hired here at PK to be the head football coach and an educator. I did that for 3 years and I transitioned into the position that I have now. I got my undergrad in physical education from Middle Tennessee State University. That's what led me into being a teacher. I then got my master's from Western Kentucky University in event and facilities management, and that's kind of how I gravitated towards the assistant principal of facilities. And then lastly, I got my education specialist from the University of Florida and my principal certification. So with all those things being combined, so to speak, I'm very, very happy to be here to serve in many different capacities. And first and foremost for me, what is always up front the most is school safety. And school safety encompasses a lot of different things. And we're going to touch on some of those today. We'll try to touch on all of them. I may speed through this a little bit. What you're hearing right now is my Southern drawl. Um, I'm gonna slip into my New York accent and be fast. So if I go too fast, just ask me to slow down. As a native New Yorker, I do tend to talk fast once I get excited about things. So I want to make sure that I get through all the content that I have to get through to make sure that we leave you with plenty, plenty, plenty of time for Q&A. Because for me, I think that's the most important part is that you all have the open forum to ask questions and have those answers delivered to you delivered to you today. All right, so let me plug this back in. My computer came out. All right. So the presentation that you're going to see today is a presentation that I deliver to the teachers and actually deliver some of this to the students as well. Not all of it has to go to the students, but I thought it would be best to just show you exactly what we show our educators and how we train them up or coach them up, so to speak, to be able to provide a great educational environment, because at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like I like to say, is safety, security, and having all of your basic needs met. If your students come into a unclean school building, that's in my department. That is something that they won't be able to, that's an impediment to their education. If your students don't feel safe here on our campus, again, that's my department. That's an impediment to their education. So I take this job very seriously. I want them to have all the things that they need to have so that when they come here every single day, they know that they're coming to a safe, warm, welcoming environment, and then learning can happen unimpeded. So today we're going to spend some time talking about a few things. The standard response protocol down in the right-hand corner, that's abbreviated SRP. We'll talk about the standard reunification method that's in the middle under reunify. We'll talk a little bit about synthegics up in the right-hand corner, our active assailant protocol of run, hide, fight, which is in the left, and we'll talk about youth mental health. If you have the link that Ms. Eubanks put in the chat, it has all these documents there that you can click on them and you can open them up on your own so that if I'm going too fast or if you want to look at something, save it for later, all of those things are made so that you can view them. And I've got them listed in the order that I'll touch on them in. So let's start off with youth mental health. When a non-specific concern is presented in class, some behaviors that we ask our teachers and our students to be aware of and their friends are sudden mood changes or affect changes. And that can be up or down. Someone who was once a very introverted person is now extroverted and vice versa. They may be sad or withdrawn for an extended period of time, maybe 2 weeks. And they may express sudden overwhelming fear. Maybe they're starting fights with others and they were previously, not an aggressive student. They may have difficulty concentrating where there wasn't a prior concern in this area, or any other drastic changes in students' behavior or personality. And this could even include hygiene. If they cease combing their hair or begin to have, smelly problems and things like that. Those are all changes that we want to make sure that we assist kids with and make sure that they get help. And that's why every Tuesday today, we have our student services meeting where we discuss these students in depth and make sure that we can provide supports with them around them through our counseling services. Sometimes it may be behavioral support. But we want to make sure that whenever students are presenting these non-specific concerns, that we address them as soon as we can so that they don't become what we call acute concerns. So an acute concern is presented in class some behaviors to be aware of might be mention of suicidal ideation. Even if it sounds passive. Kids sometimes they say things like, I've got so much work, I could just kill myself. We don't even want our kids talking like that in jest, because you don't know, number one, the person next to you, they may be feeling that way for real, and that may, send them down a dark path. We want to be just sensitive in that way, and understanding that these are serious, serious comments, and that we never want to use those things just as, as expressions. We want to use better words to express ourselves. Sometimes a passive statement like this is actually asking for help in a way that feels more comfortable for the student. Sometimes kids and even adults, we aren't always the best at asking for help. And so we might sometimes put out little feelers that sound like they're jokes, but behind every good joke is a little bit of truth. So that's why we take this a little bit seriously. So as we're talking to our teachers, put yourself in the role of the teacher. So what am I supposed to do following any student concern? Well, the course of action that we do is we want to get these students directly to our guidance counselors, Ms. Bogart for 6-7, Ms. Walker for 9-10, and McElroy for 11-12. We have Mr. Bryce at the K-5 level as well to assist all of our students. And we've got great behavior coaches in Jeremy Algren and Coach Rob Brunson. These guys, even our SRO, Henry Belville, these guys and these ladies, they form this really great network to just assist your students through anything that they might be going through, so that, again, that they can come to school feeling safe, warm, and in a welcoming environment. So we'll talk a little bit now about the standard response protocol, and it's why we use it and what it is what we're going to discuss. So you may have seen this poster around school. It's supposed to be posted in every single classroom. There is a link there for you to view that poster and save it if you would like. The spaces, the icons the icons are to give a direction and a directive. So when we talk about these 5 icons, schools across the county, across the country, have adopted the standard response protocol to enhance student safety during an incident or an emergency. Is based on 5 actions that we take during an incident or an emergency. Those 5 actions are hold, secure, lock down, evacuate, and shelter. And we really need to understand the difference in each one of those. Each action is always followed by a directive. So if you were on campus and you would hear it over the PA, you would hear the action and then the directive of what to do behind it. Every action then has a specific set of instructions of what to do in an emergency, and we repeat that twice on the PA system, and then we go back and we repeat that on our radios as well to make sure that we've covered our whole entire campus with this information. For example, this is what you will hear and how you will react to a hold situation. Hold, in your room or your area, clear the halls. You may continue business as usual. I really can't see the rest of it because it's small on my screen and I'm reading the notes. I'm sorry, but the rest of it is there. What a hold is for is in a situation is basically we don't want what's happening in the hallways to impede to spill into classrooms. The perfect example is just a slip and fall. There's a water spill, something has leaked or something like that, and we need to make sure we can get it cleaned up. Sometimes it may be that a student is being transported from their classroom to the nurse. And we want to make sure that the hallways are clear so that that student can get there, number one, with privacy, and again, with speed and accuracy. So with students in this situation, students remain in their seats. They continue their lesson. If lessons are done, the students may be given time to read or study. There's absolutely no drama with a hold. The next step is what you will hear is a secure. In a secure situation, you would hear secure, get inside, lock outside doors. When we use this when there is a threat outside of the building, like criminal activity, civil unrest, or even sometimes wild animal issues. If you're familiar at all with our campus here at PK, we do have 63 sprawling acres with a beautiful creek right down the middle, and we do butt up to some wooded areas. We have bats, foxes, raccoons, possums, snakes. They've been on our campus several times. We have a fox that comes out daily and likes to run around and play. So in these situations, if there's something going on outside that could present a harm to your students, we go into a secure situation. And the main piece here is to keep students inside and be more aware of what is going on around us. There's no danger on our campus. It's in our area. Perhaps it's protests at UF or something like that. But we want to make sure that what's happening outside of our campus, if it should spill onto our campus, that we're ready for it. In a lockdown situation, you would hear lockdown, locks, lights, out of sight. We use this when there is an active threat on our campus. All right, so whatever that threat may be, we go into our safe corners. We make sure our blinds are drawn if we have them. If we're on a second floor like I am right now, obviously that's not an issue. But we do our best to reduce visibility. And I use that word reduce visibility because it's not about becoming 100% invisible in an active assailant situation. It's about reducing visibility, making sure that your door is locked as it should be when students are in the classroom. We'll touch on that later. And just making sure that you're not an easy target. A lot of times people confuse active assailants with trained assassins. They're not. They're people who have ill intentions and they're trying to inflict the most mass casualties in the shortest amount of time possible. They don't go through locked doors. They don't shoot out glass and climb through glass. They typically don't do those things. They're looking for the next easy target. And that's why we reduce our visibility by turning off the lights, getting into our safe corner, and even using furniture if we need to hide behind and barricade doors so that we're not an easy target. You hear evacuation. Evacuation is kind of a free-flowing thing. It really depends on why we might be evacuating. Evacuation is how we move students in an orderly fashion from point A to point B. A fire drill is really evacuate out of the building, right? So that's not what we would call an evacuation. We're evacuating out of the building and we're relocating to our typical spots where we go for a fire drill. But an evacuation situation might mean that, let's say, over here in the elementary building where my office is located, a pipe has burst and the floors are flooding and we need to evacuate. Everyone on the bottom floor or everyone in the building, all of elementary needs to relocate to a specific location while we're dealing with this situation. So you might hear elementary students and teachers, please evacuate to the gym, please evacuate to the gym. Lastly, we have shelter. This shelter is a hazard and a safety strategy. And the one on that list that we might see might be tornado during our hurricane season this time around as the weather patterns have changed and oceans have warmed. We're getting a lot more tornadoes with our hurricanes now. Obviously, hurricanes are much easier to predict, and that's why we shut down schools. That's also something I'll touch on a little bit later. But with the tornadoes, being someone from Tennessee and understanding how quickly and easily a tornado can pop up and they're hard to track and predict, this is a situation where we'll shelter we'll have a particular protocol behind that. So if it's a tornado, it will be shelter in place, prepare for tornado situation. And then we'll talk about our reunification. So our reunification procedures are in the event that students are forced to leave campus due to an active threat, a gas leak, a bomb threat. Maybe we had an actual fire and we've got fire trucks here. Our school day is kind of impacted by the law enforcement and first responders here. And we cannot give you your student back here on campus in the quick fashion that we do so well on a daily basis, right? What we have to understand with this is that this process is going to be more about accuracy than speed because we want to make sure we get your student back to you. The procedure will ensure that all students are properly reunited with their parent or guardian. So the next one is this map is a little bit congested, and I'll try to break it down for you. If you're familiar with UF campus or our surrounding area, right down 11th Street, past Greek Row, Sorority Row rather, is Norman Hall, where original PK was when it was actually over there right on the campus. We're still on campus, but that building is, considered more on campus than we are because we're on the fringe. The old Norman Hall is where PK used to be, and that's where we go to reunify, is in that library. And we're actually in talks now because our school has grown so much since this plan was first in place. We're in talks to actually commandeer more of the building to accommodate all of our students and our faculty members and make sure that we have the whole entire facility because we won't have our school at our disposal. So what's asked of our teachers during a reunification event? So the greeters, they help coordinate the parent lines. They tell parents about the process. They help verify the identity of the parents, and especially if the parent doesn't happen to have an ID. If something happens on our campus, we fully understand this. If something happens on our campus that causes us to have to reunify, the thing that I fully understand is that all of you parents are everybody that's a family member is going to want to come and get that kid. It could be uncle, it could be grandma, everybody in the family is going to be coming up here trying to retrieve that student. And we get that, we understand that. We ask that you send one so that the process is smoother. And of course, it helps us to eliminate having to verify so many people. After we've greeted the parents, those are the green dots. The checkers, they verify the ID and custody rights of the parents and guardians, and they direct parents to a reunification location. So again, we're off campus, and there's sometimes situations in splintered families where this person is not allowed to pick up that student. That is their flesh and blood. They want to be there to make sure their kid is okay, but legally we have to return said student to the proper parent. Again, accuracy over speed. We have runners who take the bottom of a reunification card that you filled out to the student staging area where the students are waiting. They'll retrieve the student from there and bring them back to reunification area. We have what we like to call kid herds. Those are faculty members who maintain student order and identify runners in the staging area. And of course, we have to have something for students to do. So we have an entertainment coordinator at the elementary level to play games, music, movies, keep them engaged and kind of away from the traumatic event that is happening. And lastly, the hardest part about this to talk about is our grief counseling area. That's a secluded area away from everyone else that if something catastrophic has happened to your child, we want to step you out of that line, get you somewhere private where you can understand the situation and not have to deal with that in front of everyone else. It's a hard thing to say, but those are the realities of American society today. It's not just schools. It could be in Publix, it can be in Winn-Dixie, it could be anywhere you go. Next, we're going to watch the first 4 scenes of this video. Let's see if the volume is on.
Coach Mac, it's pretty muffled.
I'm sorry, say again, Emily?
It's pretty muffled. We can't really hear it.
Can't hear it. Okay, I will turn it down and see if that works a little bit better. The ideal here is to see the reactions of each person. It's spooky season too. The first person, the first group of people, take note of what they did. While these are all pranks and jokes orchestrated for laughs, there is a purpose behind this, so take note, please.
Right.
Brains down. No, 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 yo. No. Hey.
Run.
No,
Now, there's a reason I show you those videos. Each one of those persons responded differently. Whoops, give me just a second. Each one of those persons responded differently to the situation, right? Give me 1 second to get my presenter notes back. Emily, is everything still the same on the screen?
We're on the run, hide, fight slide.
Very good, perfect. So what you saw in those videos were 4 different actions. The first set of people in the parking garage, they were scared by this person in the dinosaur suit. They took off running. He even reached back and grabbed the person to get them off the ground. You saw a person jump inside of a dryer when the dinosaur came in, and they threw the clothes out. They jumped in the dryer, tried to close the door, and they're trying to hide. The last person, did they do either of those? They were in a tight box. They couldn't run, they couldn't hide, and they chose not to fight. That person became a victim. All right, so run, hide, fight is our active assailant protocol. This is endorsed by the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security. It evokes your natural instinct of your fight or flight response. So you can't forget run, hide, fight. It's something that you're naturally going to do anyway, and this is what we teach our students. If you understand where to run, you run. When do we run? You make that decision based off the information you have at the time, same as evading under the old Alice protocol, if you're familiar with that. This protocol of run, hide, fight is much shorter. It doesn't have this long acronym called Alice. It's just a simpler way and a faster way of processing. If there's a safe path is available, then you run. If you do not hesitate, just get out. You leave your belongings and you do not attempt to move injured people. Hide. If you cannot get out safely, we hide. And this is the part of our drills that we practice. We practice this in our lockdown drills because it's a very difficult task to practice actually running or fighting. So we practice hiding, and we have to just have it in our schema, so to speak, that running and hiding and fighting are all three dynamic situation type of responses that we can use in a given situation. Lastly, we have the option to fight. Like our guy in the elevator, he chose to sit to curl up in a corner, talk big, but he didn't do anything to save himself. And this is what we don't want our teachers and our students to react this way. If the assailant is upon you and you don't have any other choice, you can't run, you couldn't hide, now it's time to fight. So we're going to talk about a little bit about our communication and how we can do that across our campus. Each community, wing, or building has a centrally located walkie-talkie. There's about 55 of these dispersed around the campus. This is the quickest way to get hold to anyone on our campus. Myself, Coach Brunson, Dr. Geiger, Dr. Marchman, Emily Eubanks, all of us administrators carry one. It's the best course of action, the quickest course of action to get in touch with someone. Similarly, each school has a phone that we can use to call the front desk by dialing 9001. Some classrooms have front desk call buttons that you'll see over there in the left-hand corner. Actually, my office has one. You can hit that button. It will go directly to the main office front desk, and you can ask for assistance that way. You may use your cell phone to call the SRO, myself, Coach Brunson, or Geiger directly, but that is not always reliable, especially if we're in a crisis situation. If it's a hazmat situation or I'm sorry, not a hazmat, but a weather situation, maybe cellular service is down. So I really encourage our teachers to go directly to the radio. It's the speed of the radio. It's just like law enforcement officers say, you might be able to outrun my cruiser, but you can't outrun the radio. I'm talking to everyone else, letting them know where you're going. Each school issued device comes equipped with a desktop panic button. And we'll talk a little bit about that with Centegix. Those things go directly to 911. That's the little lanyard thing that you see. This is not an actual Centegix lanyard, but once we onboard that, the teachers all will have a lanyard that when something goes sideways in classroom, if it's just they need assistance with a student who's being unruly, they can touch that button a number of times. It will alert the proper people. We can come assist. If it is an active assailant situation, they press that thing a different time, and it goes directly to 911. It alerts everyone in the school building. There's strobes, the whole 9 yards. It's a very comprehensive program. They have over 55–60% of the school districts have adopted Centegix. We're still in the middle of our lift. The University of Florida has been really great in providing us financial support to onboard this. It's to the tune of $10,500 a year with an upfront lift of about $30,000. And that's on top of other things that the university is bringing us. And I'll sidetrack for just a minute now that we're talking a little bit about safety hardware. The university is also providing us with much more camera coverage. They're going to replace cameras. They're going to reposition cameras. Since our new build, we have old cameras in certain places, and then we put the canopy up, and now the camera can only see so much and things like that. So they've really dedicated a lot to helping us. Thank you to the parents that we have here. The Sprague family, the Stranad family, the Renton family, anyone else that I've left out, Pruitt family, all of you have been very instrumental in getting us assistance from the University of Florida to help keep us safe with infrastructure. It's on us now. It's incumbent upon us to build a culture of safety, because we all know that software, hardware doesn't always work. It's the 1,400 people, men, women, children, and adults on this campus perpetrating a culture of safety that will get us over the hump. So these are just the evacuation plans that we show to teachers so the teachers understand each year. It has a list of how you evacuate, where you evacuate to for fire drills. It has our AED list on there. We have 7 AEDs on campus, 2 in the gym, 2 in the main building, 1 on the first floor right with Miss V. There's 1 on the 3rd floor in the mother's room. And there's 1 in the cafeteria in the breezeway between the 2 classrooms. We have an AED on the new PE court up here for your kids. There's 1 in a PAC, and there's 1 with Nurse Ava. So we have AEDs, automated external defibrillators. Our teachers, I believe this is the second time now, 2 years. 2 years ago, our teachers, 35 of us became CPR and first aid certified. So we have a bunch of CPR certified folks around campus to help blanket the campus as well, strategically placed from the elementary building all the way down to the gym. And then at this point in the presentation, again, just reminding you that this is geared towards our teachers. This is where I would try to get with everyone one-on-one to review their lockdown plans, their strategies, answer questions for them, make sure that they're comfortable with everything that we're trying to do. All right, so now we're going to some legislative things, and we'll talk a little bit about why I have the position that I have and what it's about. After Marjory Stoneman Douglas tragedy in Parkland on February 14th, 2018, the Florida legislature quickly passed the most comprehensive school safety act, the MSD School Safety Act. This act requires each Florida school district to assign a school safety specialist, an administrator to oversee and implement a myriad of protocols, measures, upgrades, trainings, and policies to enhance the safety and security of our schools. Florida superintendents identified school safety as their #1 priority and area of emphasis. Because of this, the Florida Association of District School Superintendents, CEO Senator Bill Montford, spearheaded the formation of FS3, the Florida Association of School Safety Specialists. In early 2023, to highlight the importance to build a community for these essential individuals, Florida school safety specialists. So the association has been around since this position has been around since MSD, but the FS3 has only been around for a couple of years. I was in on the ground floor when they first had the first conference. We go down to a beautiful resort in Orlando every year. We're down there for 3 days. We're listening to trainings. We actually meet Max Shatter, whose son was, and I'll use the words he uses, my son was murdered at MSD. I get to meet that man every year. Alyssa's alert, that is the reason why we'll do mobile panic buttons, and the state gives each school district $1,000 to onboard a mobile alert. We meet that woman every year, and she talks about her child being murdered in the school, and it's very eye-opening. And when you have 17 people, goodness, don't get emotional. 17 people died to give me this job, and I want to do it to the best of my abilities. Following the success of the inaugural summit in June 2023, the FS3 once again brought together school safety specialists and mental health coordinators from each of the 67 Florida, I saw that heart and you got me emotional, stop it, K through 12 public school districts. The 2024 School Safety Summit took place June 10th through 12th in Orlando, and this is where the following information was delivered. These are new laws that we must adhere to, and it's my job to help enforce them. So the term whistleblower is usually associated with snitching, right? But as a former sport coach, I stay with a whistle. I keep my whistle on me at all times. It's a crowd mover, it's a crowd stopper, and it basically means to me that when we're in practice, if we're not doing the things that we need to be doing, I'm going to blow the whistle, stop the drill, and we're going to do it right. Perfect practice makes perfect play, not just practicing. So I don't mind the term whistleblower, because when I blow the whistle, I need you to stop, redirect, and we're going to do things the right way. So let's talk about the infractions that I'm looking to stop. Campus access, and these are laws, regulations that were put in place this year. Campus access is our gate system, which we have one gate guard at our most busy entrance at 11th Street, where we have our elementary loop. Our other gates are open and staffed during pickup and drop-off times. That is something that the state has mandated that we do. If those gates are open during pickup and drop-off, there must be an adult there to verify who's coming on and off your campus. So just for example, our SRO notified me, this is weeks ago, maybe a few months ago, that at the apartments just south of the gym, and if you're not good directionally with north, east, south, and west, imagine yourself in the gym parking lot about to go directly out of that gate. There's those apartments to your right. At 8:15 in the morning, there was an armed robbery taking place. The police responded. We had someone at the gate. Everything was okay. It didn't spill onto our campus, but this is exactly why we want someone at every single gate during pickup and drop-off times. All right, so this next one is about classroom doors. All classroom doors and other instructional spaces must be locked to prevent ingress when occupied by students, unless the door is open between class periods, students are going to restrooms or things like that, or if the door is actively staffed by a person standing at the door. So if a teacher is, teaching your students and they've got kids inside the class and maybe they're out in the hallways, especially, in our secondary building, we've done the design is laid out so that everything up there can be instructional space. We ask that teachers monitor both of those spaces and stand there at the door. And here's the reason why. In the event of an active assailant, a locked door is going to save your life. If the event starts outside your classroom and your door is locked, you are now saving the lives of the children in that classroom behind you. If your door is unlocked, you're now putting yourself at risk to get there in time before the assailant can get to you. So what we're talking about is quarantining each area off to keep that flow from going anywhere else. And so this means that we've had to change our habits, especially in areas of shared community space and open classrooms. My recommendations to the teacher is to operationalize our students to make part of a student culture. All of us have to be aware when we are the last person through the door. And this is where I like to tell them, I told the students this too. If you're the last person through the door, do the paparazzi turn. You know, the paparazzi's following you, asking for pictures and stuff. Go through that door, look back, pose for the paparazzi. Make sure that door is closed. If it's not, close it. Pose for the paparazzi one more time. Go on about your business, right? All of us have to be aware when we are the last person through. Make sure that every door closes. Not every door over here works the way that they're designed to. Our building is shifting in a lot of areas because we have a creek and we're in Florida. A lot of exterior doors, the frames are tilted and the doors won't close on their own, even if we crank the hydraulic all the way up. Our electronic doors in our secondary building, due to the summers are hot, our building is more full than it was before. We're pushing a lot more AC through the building than what it was, previously designed with. And we have these automatic doors that are on actuators that close. Well, what we found out is the harder we turn up the actuator, if you know physics, you've got this airflow. So now they're fighting against each other. We actually have airflow holding our doors open just that much at times. And so it takes every single student to be aware of these things and to close doors behind each other and to lock doors behind each other. The most impactful piece of student safety are the students. Be part of the culture and keep everyone safe. Lastly, on this part, we have the signs, PK safety first. Again, this was another mandate by the state that all classrooms and other instructional spaces must clearly and conspicuously mark the safest areas in each classroom or other instructional space where students must shelter in place during an emergency. Students must be notified of these safe areas within the first 10 days of the school year, and they have been. This next thing, to me, this is an empowerment tool. If you see something, say something to me or any other administrator, and this, again, is directed at our teachers. If their coworkers are not following the standard, it's incumbent upon them that they report it. And they can do that anonymously. They know how to get in touch with me. And as a school safety specialist, we are taught to document everything. So therefore, I encourage our teachers to send me an email detailing the violation as a means to keep me accountable for following up. I don't want to just be told in my ear that teacher so-and-so is not closing their door, not locking the door. I want you to send me the email. Now you have a documented record that I have to go do my job. I cannot become a human and be lazy. I must be a methodical robot and go get the job done now. None of us are beyond reproach or exempt from upholding the standard. So, law and order, how do we enforce this? The law states that there must be a progressive discipline policy. Each district school board and charter school governing board shall adopt a progressive discipline policy for addressing any instructional personnel as defined in the statute, or any administrative personnel as defined in the statute who knowingly violate school safety requirements. So if someone is knowingly violating them, whether they are instructional personnel, teachers, or administrative personnel, myself, all the way up to Dr. Marchman, if they knowingly violate the requirements, it must be reported. What we've suggested, and we haven't ratified this, is that the first infraction, we call it a mulligan if you play golf, is documented as a way to keep track should there be a second or for infraction or beyond. It's hey, just make sure you get it done next time. We see it a second time. This time we want to fully document it. As a reminder, a gentle nudge, you got to remember this. We're changing the culture. We gave you the mulligan. Now you're on the list. The third time, a documented coaching conversation. Maybe there's something going on that I'm not aware of, and we need to discuss issues that may be causing this infraction and provide problem-solving help. And the fourth is at the director's discretion. I've recommended suspension all the way up to dismissal because we're talking about your kids' lives. So other topics of discussion. So some things that we're going to touch on next, and I'm almost down to the end. If you're following along, I think I have 4 more slides left, and then we're going to get to the Q&A. So good, I'm right on time. Let me scoot in here close because I actually can't see this. It's small on my presenter screen. There we go. We're going to talk about the 6th Street entrance, city roadway plans, unsafe pickup conditions. So let's just stop right there. So, and I'll flip back and forth for you. So the city is going to, at some point, do this with 6th Street. This is our 6th Street entrance. They're at some point going to give us a roundabout. And it's not really, they're going to give us a roundabout. That wasn't part of their initial plan. Their initial plan, if you're familiar with 6th Street, going north towards Depot Park, not towards Depot Park, but towards the Innovation District, towards Main Street, towards University, it goes down to one lane. You have a bike lane on both sides, back end parking on one, parallel parking on the other. They intend to do that from the roundabout just before PK all the way down to the Winn-Dixie. So that's really going to choke traffic down, right? These 5 lanes that we have right now are causing people to absolutely fly through there. And please, 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 because of that, do not have your kids run across the street to be picked up out there. That's why we've begun restricting students from going past a certain point to be picked up if they're not truly walking or biking home, because we have way too many parents, and I understand this, you're pressed for time. Convenience will get you killed. Do not do this out of sake of convenience, have your kids running across all these lanes of traffic. Once our traffic is narrowed down, it will become much safer. The traffic will be much slower, and our traffic will flow much better because we'll have a roundabout in our area. So let me go back. Why do we not have a school zone? We do not have a school zone because we don't have more than 50 kids walking home every day, and we've not had 3 car accidents within a calendar year in that exact area. After meeting with the engineers several years ago when they first proposed this plan to us, that's exactly what they told us. And their philosophy is literally, if it's not broken, if it's not a safety hazard, then we can't throw money at it because there's other areas that are. Just like with the improvements that you see going down University with the speed humps, people were being injured and killed there. Small children were run over further down University, and so they put safety measures in place. I'm not telling you to go have car wrecks, but what I am telling you to do is talk to the county commission. Get with these folks, get in their ear. 600 families strong saying we want a school zone might affect change, right? But this is not something that we can directly just go do as a school. We'll talk about our campus surroundings a little bit. So as I touched on a little bit earlier, we have apartments at the south end of our campus by our gym, which are affectionately sometimes referred to as the UF ghetto. A lot of things happen down there. They happen across that area. And just to be honest with you, because I'm very transparent, it was senior baseball night on a Thursday. I was there. Coach Brunson left. He's ready to go home. We got a few kids just reminiscing about their season, having a good time. It's 10:30. I'm like, listen, we got to go home, folks. So 10:30 on a Friday night, they go home. On a Thursday night, they go home. 10:30 on a Friday night, this is baseball season. We don't have a football game. 10:30 the very next night, there's a shooting at the apartment complex right across the fence. So we are, while our school is safe inherently, the umbrella of UF does provide us with a lot of protections. There are still things and people and events in our area that we just cannot control. If you pick up your student right out here, and I keep pointing around because I'm like looking out my window, looking right out here where we pick up for our elementary, right directly across from our guard shack is a veterans halfway house. These are older people, older veterans of war who are seeking treatment at Shands Hospital. They may be dealing with mental issues. They may be dealing with alcoholism or what have you. But if you see ambulances there all the time, that's why. It's because they're housing several older veterans, and they're going to have medical issues. We have Greek life right down the road. Not to say that fraternity, sorority guys and girls are inherent dangers, but they throw parties and there'll be, drunken, stumbling people at night coming through campus or coming past our campus. Just the other day, UPD drove by and was doing just a campus sweep to see if everything was okay. It was closer to 9:45. There was some gentleman sitting on the curb. The officer asked him, "Do you know where you are?" He says, "Yes, I'm in Alachua, Florida." He goes, "Well, more specifically, you realize you're on a school campus?" Gentleman answers, "No, I just stopped to rest my legs." So we do have these things that are around us because of our location that we want to make sure that we're aware of. Let's talk a little bit about hurricanes and closure procedures. So this is a point of contention, and I'm not going to lie. I was also upset with our last hurricane procedure when it's like, why are we waiting so long? Why are we waiting so long? Right? I didn't even realize this. Emily, thank you for filling me in on this. I learned something that day. We don't close our school as quickly as the county schools do because we're not a shelter. If a hurricane hits and your school is a shelter, you got to close early so that folks can make their way to the shelter. That's why we close under the procedures that UF uses. We follow them, we follow their guidance. Of course, we don't have school buses. So, when school buses can't make it out to the rural areas to pick up students, they have to close that particular school or maybe the whole county school. We don't deal with those same set of circumstances. So we have a little bit more leeway in making these choices and following UF guidance. And so because it's not a shelter, that's just kind of how that goes. So the last thing that I did want to touch on is the new school safety requirement. There's a link of this also in those notes. This is actually the reason why we're here today. This new requirement came out that we are now tasked with informing our parents that about false reports and how those are to be handled. I'm just going to read it word for word. As many of you have seen firsthand, the beginning of 2024-2025 school year has brought, I'm going to scroll down just so you can see the header, has brought about new challenges as we tirelessly work to keep the state's students and educators safe. One particular trend that is of great concern across the state is the sharp rise in false reports being submitted through Fortify FL. Submitting false tips in Fortify FL is not only reckless, but it also impedes resources that are needed for actual emergencies and carries serious legal consequences. Students arrested for recent school threats have been charged with second-degree felonies in violation of Section 836.10 Florida statutes. It is unlawful for any person to send, post, or transmit or procure the sending, posting, or transmission of a writing or other record, including an electronic record, in any manner in which it may be viewed by another person, when in such writing or record the person makes a threat to A, kill or do bodily harm to another person, or B, conduct a mass shooting or an act of terrorism. As I outlined in the August 2nd, 2024 memorandum, we revised to require that all students receive age and developmentally appropriate instruction on the proper use of Fortify Florida mobile suspicious activity reporting tool within the first 5 days of the school year, and we did do that for your students. The instructions had to include the consequences for making a threat or false report via Fortify FL. The requirement is also included in the other rule. In response to the unprecedented uptick of false reports, I am requiring every district school board to make available a training for parents and guardians of students that includes the consequences for making a threat or a false report via Fortify Florida. And I personally would like to extend that back up to rule number 2 in any format, not just Fortify Florida, in a text message, an email, a Snapchat, an Instagram, a face, or whatever we want to call them nowadays. Whatever the method is, if you make a false report, they're going to come after you. I understand that many of our districts are still dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Helen, and so this is just more semantics that they wanted us to get this done by November 15th, 2024. So that is, I believe, folks, the last thing that I have on my list. Q&A time.
Okay, so we've got a couple comments about making sure that we notify by text and phone message when things happen, and not just by email. We do our best to do that. It's not always possible. I will say on text message, there is a box in Skyward that you have to check to be able to receive text messages. So it's not an automatic thing.
I'm just catching up on those two. Yes. Those were the only two in the chat. Does anyone have anything that they would like to verbalize? Emily, I don't know if they can actually speak or if they have to put it in the.
You have to put it in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
just
we'll,
so you're
we'll
aware,
hang out. We'll hang out and, see who has questions. We know it's a lot of information.
Thank you. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Please make sure you take those notes with you. There's all kinds of information there. Gives more information on the recent threat against the school. Yes, so I can't. The question is, are we able to give more information on the recent threats against the school? If you're referring to what we actually did have a student arrested for making a threat against the school. And this student made a threat that was, they did not intend to act on this threat. They chose their words very poorly. Because at the end of the day, we do have to take each threat seriously. That is something that I actually is in the documentation. It's not in the slides. If you will look and click under the area that says harm prevention, there is a 32-page manual there that whenever a student comes to us and if they're talking self-harm, if they're talking harm to others, it's a 32-page document that we use that the state issues us that helps us go through it and understand the situation and assess a level of care around the student. In the past, this was called threat management. I dislike that term. It's actually called the Florida model for harm prevention and threat management. So I want to use that term harm prevention way more than threat management, because harm prevention can mean harm to oneself or harm to others. And ultimately, we don't want anyone harmed. And threat just sounds so tacky. It's about the kids. So let's focus the kids with this and say, this is harm prevention, please. Some of those questions, I don't know if I've got the levity to answer. I don't think I should be discussing anything that you wouldn't be able to find legally in terms of the student in the homecoming
Mhm. I agree.
incident. I
That's-
don't want to say, anything that, discipline or punishment or anything like that. Just know that we took steps and we followed the law and we just read the law.
Yep.
So
We
you
have a
can,
good, we do have a good question. What is the age appropriate grade that students are given the training you mentioned that was given in the first 5 days of school? Also, what if a student does not have a cell phone? I believe you said hold on. Uh, the training offered instructions for them how to report via their mobile devices. For Fortify Florida. So the training, what's the age appropriate for training that was given in the first 5 days of school? And then how do they report for Fortify Florida?
okay, so the age appropriate training, we actually did a Zoom with each grade level at the secondary level to teach them up on that. Myself, Coach Brunson, Dr. Geiger, we showed, we had a presentation that we did for the students school-wide. At the elementary level, they handled that inside their learning communities. Again, our K1 learners, they're probably not going to be typing in the Fortify FL. So for them, it's more of see something, say something. By the time we hit 2, 3, and 4, 5, then we're able to start actually teaching those kids more how to use those tools. So we handle the elementary is more siloed inside their communities, whereas the secondary students, we did that in mass.
Did you review the difference between lockdown status and secure campus because of the issue we had the day after with the lockdown of notification? We did had some, we will admit we had some confusion there. And so it should have been a secure status.
Yes, so that is something that it takes training, it takes cultural training, and kind of our gift and curse here at PK is that we are a great school with great kids, great families, great connections to UF, all those things that I've talked about, the infrastructure, all those things. But that can also, as if you're a Nick Saban fan, that can be rat poison sometimes, right? That can be drinking the Kool-Aid where we don't invest into it in here as a upfront thing, because sometimes it can be scary to think all the time about what is a hold, what is secure, what is a lockdown. I hope I never have to use those things, but it's just education. I say all the time, fear as a motivator can be a good motivator, but only if you give someone the tools that they need to conquer said fear. That's human DNA. We survived this long because we heard a lion roar. We took off running the other way. Once we understood that we could slay that lion and we could use it for meat, we could use it for fur, we conquered our fear. So we educated ourselves as a human race to be able to get to where we needed to be today. And that's what I want to do with school safety is give everyone the tools that they need necessary to conquer the fear of investing into school safety and living school safety from a stance of confidence.
Dr. Marchman does have a comment in here. The student in question is no longer a student at PK and will not be in the future. Okay, we have another question. During drills, on top of going through the motions of practicing the run, hide, fight protocols, are the students also talked to about the importance of these skills?
So that again is something that I would like to happen more as a cultural thing, like in the classroom with the teachers, which requires me to educate our teachers. But what I do instead is when I'm on the phone or I'm on the radio during the practice of the drill, I'm talking exactly through that. I'll get on and we'll say, okay, this is the drill. May I have your attention, please? This is a lockdown drill, lockdown, locks, lights, out of sight. Please remember that in a situation, you may hear sounds or smells or things that can give you information of what you can do next, and that if you understand where the danger is, your first course of action is to run. And then I just kind of I talk through those things in this calm voice. Again, I'm doing it here, I'm doing it on the phone because we can't practice the run and the fight part. So what I do is I just try to talk through it with them while we're doing that drill, just to remember that. But again, what I would love is for this to become cultural within the school for the students and the teachers, and it can come up not just when we're doing our drills, but just come up as part of a lesson plan. If you're doing a lesson plan and you're counting how to figure out how to estimate the size of a crowd in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, you can throw that in there. And if something happens in section C13 in Ben Hill Griffin and someone's wielding a weapon, what are your options, kids? Run, hide, fight. Good. Now we're on to our next part of our lesson. Just embedding those things into it, because again, these things it's not just schools. active incidents aren't just isolated to schools. These things happen out in our general public. And so what we hope to do here is to educate our students to be great learners, to be great resilient people, and to be, great members of our society and be able to take care of themselves in every aspect of life.
Okay, in regards to comments on self-harm, when you have a student who feels work is stressful for them, how as a parent can we help to make the process easier when we have limited resources to just such thing as the unit test, quizzes, or writings in order to eliminate those feelings and thoughts?
I would say that get with your teachers. Those a lot of times those materials should be accessible on Canvas. Get with your teachers. Have your students be proactive, managing one's time and managing and being organized so that those things don't feel overwhelming. Yes, we do push our students here at PK. It's very rigorous. We want to hold our students to a high academic standard, and those things take resiliency. Those things also take self-care. It also takes self-care, and it also takes, sometimes just a big hug and saying, it's okay. And I don't really have all the answers to that. I could, keep talking, but I might just be word salading. But I just want to say your teachers they're such great resources. They will do everything for these kids. Coming from a former teacher here, coming from watching these teachers and having many friends in the classroom, I'm telling you, if you reach out to them, they'll do everything in their power they don't want kids feeling stressed out. That's the last thing our teachers want is kids feeling stressed out. But at the same time, there is work to be done. So we got to know how to manage those things. Very good question. You challenged me with that one.
Okay, that's the last question I have so far. So we'll just hang out for a minute or two and see if there's anything else that comes in.
So at five till, I'm actually starting another Zoom. Butts right up with this. I'm going to be on a Zoom with Norman Hall to discuss our reunification plan because, as I said, we've outgrown the space that we've allocated there, and we have to have some conversations around what that protocol looks like. And that starts at 1. I'll be on that with Norman Hall executives, UPD. Oh, UPD, Emily, almost forgot.
Oh, yeah.
Our school is covered by University of Florida Police, right? So on our campus, UPD responds. If we're having issues with traffic or things like literally outside our gates, that is GPD property. So when people are blocking roadways and things like that, that is GPD's issue. Now, if we have a active event, something happens here, I already know everybody's going to respond because GPD, UPT, ASO, GFR, all these different entities, a lot of you have kids that go here, state troopers, all of that. So I know that every single entity is going to respond to that school. And that's what makes us, even more special being here at PK is that just inherently, we have so many people who are willing to help right off the bat.
Mhm.
Hey, Misty.
One question. What adults are at the secondary entrance and exit before and after school?
At the gates.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the gate in the morning, we have Justin Doby, who is our cheer coach. He monitors the south gate. If you don't see him sitting on the golf cart today, he was actually in his vehicle because I left the golf cart up here. So he parked right there at the gate today. And ideally, the ideal is we're there and able to see the gates up at 6th Street in the morning. Typically, I know Dr. Geiger handles that in the afternoon. I couldn't tell you who's there in the morning. My memory escapes me right now. And of course, at our 11th Street entrance is Matt.
And Coach Brunson at the
At the student parking lot, right?
parking lot.
And that is another reason why some of our gate patterns are as they are and kind of started off how they did was because we didn't have the staffing to be there to open that gate. So that's why students are entering past Matt. Our drivers, our student drivers, they enter past Matt at our elementary loop because we don't have the staffing to send someone else up there until 9:30 because we have to move Coach Brunson down to the south gate. It has been a bit of a challenge. So if you're free and can come
There's
on,
always someone out there. We always make sure those gates are covered. So that's never like if one of us is not available, we make sure the gate is covered. So there's never not someone there.
So at 6th Street, when you're picking someone up, when you're picking your student up and you don't see an adult there, I know that Dr. Geiger's there. Sometimes she'll have a sub with Fabiana and
Brad Bell is
Brad
also
Bell.
there. Yeah, there's multiple people. There's one on the circle for 6th Street and one at the gate.
Yeah.
Sometimes she's in her car, but she's always there.
Yeah. So and there's the extreme circumstance where very extreme where if everybody is literally has the flu, is not there. But even if we have to send one of my maintenance folks out there, one of my custodial staff, we'll get it covered. All right, I've
Good.
got 60 seconds. One last question.
Yep. Yeah, that's one question about safety with middle schoolers. When I pick up elementary students from after school, there are many middle schooler students running around. Yes, there are.
Yes, so you're picking up from after school, I'm guessing after 3:40, and when middle school lets out, and definitely on early release Wednesdays when K through 7 is out. That is a logistical problem that we're definitely actively looking at with the schedule that we have with our elementary starting at 8 o'clock and then our secondary starting at 9 and 9:10, and then vice versa on the back end, elementary getting out 90 minutes earlier. There is a little bit of crossover conflict, but again, we are a family school. And the number one thing that I would love to preach again is just school culture and knowing that when our middle schoolers are out there, that they're taking care of our youngest learners, that they're not using foul language around those kids and things like that.
Is there a place they're supposed to be? She had 2 kids playing a game in front of moving cars last week.
After school lets out at 3:40,
They're supposed to be off campus within
supposed to be off
15 minutes.
campus.
Mhm.
The issue that we see there is that our contracted time here is us. We're off the clock at 4 o'clock. It's not the most ideal situation, 3:40 to 4 o'clock, and supervision is gone. But those kids have to get off campus. I mean, I'm here at 7:30 every morning, and I love my wife, and I love going home too. So at 4 o'clock, I like to clock out and head on to my house.
Yep.
They should do the same. All right, it's 12:56. I got to get to this other Zoom at Norman. Please email me. I'm going to drop my email address.
Yes, PK provides supervision from 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Dr. Marchman
Yes.
remind. And Coach Mack has put his email in there, so if you have any safety questions, please let him know. And
Thank you,
otherwise,
everyone. Thank you for attending.
Yeah.
I cannot thank you enough. You know, as a sport coach, I always say, you're trusting me with the development of your young player, right? Just by simply sending them here, you're trusting us with everything from their safety to their development as a student to become better citizens. Thank you for sending them to us. It shows that you trust us, and I'm glad to have today to be transparent and open and to actually find a foundation that you can root that trust in, and it doesn't just have to be blind trust. Now you know what the purpose is behind the why, and I can't thank you all enough.
all right. Thank you so much.